Mirëmbrëma, më quaj Renis Nushaj, jam avokat i këtij komuniteti. Sot kam kënaqësinë që të kem këtu gjykatësin e Sterling Heights, Judge Stephen SIERAWSKI. Judge, it is my pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much for being here.
What an honor. Thank you.
No, the honor is ours. And as I was telling you just beforehand, I've been practicing, I've had the pleasure of practicing before you for well over a decade. And I know you to be a wonderful judge. You're a joy to this community. You're exceptional as far as you're a judge's judge and a lawyer's judge. And I mean that sincerely.
It's very kind.
But it occurs to me that because of those qualities, I know so little about you, even though I appear before you year after year, month after month. And I want to know all about you. So I want to start with, how old are you? The difficult questions first.
Okay.
How old are you?
I am presently 60, soon to be 61.
All right.
So I got a birthday coming up. But
where did you grow up?
I actually started in Ferndale.
Okay.
And my dad eventually got a job up in Lansing. So he was commuting back and forth, and this was before 96, by the way. There was no I-96.
There you go.
So he got a job. He transferred up to Lansing with the Secretary of State's office. And he worked for Richard Austin.
Okay.
So for many years. And we moved up there, 1967, I want to say. And from there, we moved to Lansing. From there, we moved to Delta Township, which is just west of Lansing. I don't know if you know the Lansing area that well. So I went to school actually to Grand Ledge, Michigan.
Okay.
And I was back there just this past weekend for my wife's reunion. I won't mention number. And we'll get to my wife later.
There you go.
She represents...
But remain free of numbers, of course.
Yeah, of course. If you know what's good for you.
Yeah, exactly. If you want to get married.
You're a married man.
Yes, sir.
No. So Lansing, Michigan, I graduated from Grand Ledge, and then followed in my father's footsteps. I went to the University of Notre Dame in South Bend, Indiana, and graduated in 1983 with a Bachelor's of Arts in Economics. And at that time, I was, for those who remember there, or were there in 1983, it was the recession, one of the first great recessions, they want to call them. So at graduation, I had the opportunity to go to law school or get a job, or I was contemplating, and I wore it today, my Selfridge shirt. I actually enlisted to fly with the Air Force, because after my school, I was ready for a little time out. And more importantly, I was looking eagerly to not just flying, but to serve. And in that regard, I flew active duty in the B-52.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the monster airplane. But flew the B-52 as a navigator. And we flew everywhere. And I won the Cold War.
Oh,
so for you, that
makes perfect sense.
For your
welcome, you're in the right place.
Yeah. But I joke about that in the sense that my kids look at me and go, "What do you mean? You paid the heating bill?" No. There was actually a Cold War. But so I sat Strategic Air Command.
Okay.
SAC. I sat Nuclear Alert.
No kidding.
Yeah. I would. One of my first roles as a second lieutenant in the Air Force was to pre-flight or inspect 24 nuclear weapons. Now, when I say inspect, there was just certain, we had a checklist and we checked certain things. It wasn't like I was putting them together or anything, or arming them, because we had to have the codes.
Sure.
But 24 nuclear weapons, and we would sit 7 days on and then get 3.5 days off. But that's how we won the Cold War, I guess, between...
Judge, knowing all I know about you, I presume you were walking around with a nuclear football everywhere.
No, that is not, as we say, that's way above my pay grade. Always has been. But I was a part of the nuclear deterrent, or the triad they'd call it. And then I decided, about 4 to 5 years after that, I was interested in law school. So I said, well, let's go back to Detroit area where most of the law schools were. So I applied to the Detroit area schools and was fortunate to get into Wayne State Law. And at that point, I'm married, and very unexpectedly, my wife, only about a year after our marriage, she became pregnant with twins. Now, you'll appreciate this. What you probably don't know is that I started law school with 6-month-old twins.
Oh.
And it gets better. In order to pay the mortgage, to feed the family, I would fly out of Selfridge on the weekends and at night to pay the bills. So I was a wee bit busy, but you know what? It's amazing how you look back on those times, as busy as you are. I mean, there was a whirlwind. I mean,
imagine.
Twins, you know, flying, law school, and then, you know, and I still maintain my marriage somehow.
But we have twin girls, and actually now I realize that actually we're fortunate by comparison, because I thought we were busy, but it pales in comparison.
Yeah, no, but as you well know, what a double blessing they are.
Yes.
And how old are your twins?
6 years old.
Bless you.
No, thank you.
Yeah, no, mine are now 33, and I think you see one of my twins.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, he's a Macomb County Assistant Prosecutor.
That's right. That's right.
We're
He does
very
very
proud
well.
of that. Yeah,
Absolutely.
thank you.
He does very well.
And so, sure enough, 1990, fall of 1990, my second year of law school, I don't know if you recall, but of course I will. It was the Iraq was starting, well, they invaded Kuwait. And sure enough, October of 1990, I received orders to go to Desert Storm. At the time, Desert Shield, a little trivia there. It was called Desert Shield initially. So we got called up from Selfridge, and we went over there in 3 days. We got notice October 4th, and we were gone October 7th. And we flew over, and we actually were stationed in the Emirates near Dubai. It's called Sharjah. But anyway, I lost my second year in law school. And Wayne State was fantastic. They didn't, you know, charge me or anything else, and I got to save my position. So after that, I was over there about 7 months, and then came home and started law school again. And you'll again appreciate this. I completed the last 2 years in a year and a half, just because I was, you know,
You felt like you were behind.
I was behind, and I wanted to get this done. So very fortunate. I finished in December of 92, took the February bar, and then I'm very fortunate, and I give him kudos all the time, and I'm not campaigning for him, but Carl Marlinga hired me as a Macomb County Assistant Prosecutor.
That's right. At the time he was prosecutor.
Yep, and gave me my start. And Macomb, a cute story, and I hate to.
We got all the time.
All right, thank you. So I'm interning down at Wayne County Prosecutor's Office. I'm really enjoying it. And my advisor, I come back, and she goes, well, have you ever heard of a Macomb County? And at the time, I'm in Harper Woods, which is literally on the border of Macomb. And I said, yeah, it sounds familiar. She goes, have you ever thought about maybe interning up there in the prosecutor's office? I said, no. One of the greatest advice I ever received, because not being from the area or grown up in the area, she was basically directing me into a community where I was able to not only get a job, but prosper.
Excellent. And
I still owe her a dozen roses. But the point for your audience and others is the fact that sometimes that those people who give you that direction or intervention, what a difference.
Yes.
What a difference it made. And so sure enough, about 6 years after I became a prosecutor, I became judge. I mean, just, I don't want to say meteoric, but it was very fortunate.
Absolutely.
My timing was right.
Absolutely. What kind of cases did you handle as a prosecutor?
Oh, I started in district court and worked in circuit court and finished in the drug unit. And I was in the domestic violence unit. So that's somewhat near and dear to my heart. And but great experience. Do you remember Judge Jeanette, the name? Yeah, probably not. It's a little before your time. Yeah. I know, I hate to use that phrase. But God bless him, Judge Jeanette, long-time judge in Macomb County, a legend, truly. He would come in as a visiting judge, and I was his prosecutor, which meant all he did was handle trials.
Yes.
So one of my best experiences as an attorney. I literally, trial after trial after trial. Sure. And as you well know, a bit exhausting, but the experience I obtained.
Invaluable.
And invaluable, very. So God bless Judge Giannetti. He was fantastic. He put up with me, and we got through it, but the experience was invaluable. So anyway, and I ran for judge in 1996, knowing this. I probably wasn't going to win, and I didn't, but I had to get my name out, so to
Absolutely.
speak. So sure enough, ran in 96, or 6 of us, came in second, so I got through the primary. So, and I lost to a colleague, Judge Masseroni.
Oh,
and I think anyone who's been in or been around Macomb County knows what a popular and rightful popular name that is.
Absolutely.
So I knew that I probably wasn't going to make it this time, but I knew 2 years later there's another opening. So I sort of worked my tail off, didn't spend as much money as I would normally, but I was able to build a base or some following for the 2 years later. And at that point, I scared so many people off, there were only 10 opponents. Thank you.
You did an excellent job.
Oh, did I ever? But again, it worked in my favor, because in 98, there was 11 people on the ballot. You only vote for one person. And sure enough, I was able to obtain, I want to say, I know it was around 22-23% of the vote, which
It was the highest vote getter.
Oh yeah, by a good margin.
Yeah, I imagine 10, 11 others, sure.
Yep. So fortunately, winning the primary, I then 90 days later won the general, and that was in 1998, November 4th, 1998. You don't forget that day.
What does it take to run for a district court judge?
Well, a lot of craziness. No,
For
really,
our viewers, basically
certainly.
the question that I'm asking is,
No, it's a good question.
What does it take? Because this is our community is an immigrant community, as you know, and it's a newly arrived group in the sense that we've been here for the last 20, 30 years, and there's no sense when it comes to our judges, both the separation between district court and circuit court, as well as this campaigning for election. And
great question, because one, you run as nonpartisan, and two, people, and it's not unusual, and you alluded to it, they don't know their court systems or their judges, but that's not a bad thing, mind you, because the ones that do know you, there may be a reason.
Perhaps, yes.
Yeah, perhaps. But more importantly, it really takes a yeoman's effort to get your name out, and more importantly, to get your resume and your message, because people just don't pay attention.
Absolutely.
And there's actually a substantial dropout when people who, let's say, for instance, in less than 2 weeks, the people who go to vote, well, about 25% won't vote for their judges because they don't know the candidates.
Absolutely.
And that's somewhat inherent in the sense that we're limited. Yep. We're limited what we can say or profess, and so that's difficult. But it's just part of the job or the role of the judge that's difficult at times.
Absolutely.
But but the bottom line is, you got to be able to dedicate a lot of time, money, effort, and absolutely no guarantee. I mean,
When
unfortunately.
you ran for the current position that you have, correct?
Correct.
And that is, could you tell for our viewers, what does the 41A District Court cover? What is the jurisdiction of the court?
The jurisdiction covers Sterling Heights, Utica, Shelby Township, and Macomb Township. We're about 1/3 of the county. We're second largest district court in the state, next to Detroit, and the geographic, the area is huge. And now with the population growth in Macomb and Shelby, one of these days, and it's a huge political venture, we were due to get a new seat, believe it or not this census, but the census before.
Oh, is that right?
But it's such a political football in this regard, because I've researched it. You've got to get the Supreme Court on board, the state court administrator, Supreme Court, the legislatures, both state,
houses,
House, and Senate, and then the governor. So you've got to have the planets align.
Just perfectly.
Yeah, but honestly, that's one of my goals still as a judge. I'd like to see us get another seat to at least make our, our access better to the public.
Absolutely.
Because as you well know,
It is a busy courthouse.
it is.
It's a very busy courthouse.
And it's not going to slow down.
No, I don't. Yeah, you're right. And particularly with the boom in population, and there's this is a highly sought out and desirable area, so it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, but
That's incredible.
no.
Judge, so you've been obviously. What are the terms for a judicial seat?
Terms vary in this regard. There's two ways to become a judge. That's elected or appointed. Now, if you're elected during a non-incumbent spot, you'll have 6 years, and then you'll have 6 years from there. If you're appointed, and the governor makes the appointment, let's say to a partial term, you run in the very next election cycle, but then that's for a partial term. So let's say you have 2 years left in your partial. You have to run for the partial, but you're still an incumbent, which is a big advantage. And then 2 years later, you'll run for your full term.
How many judges do we have in our district court?
We have 19 total in Macomb County.
Is that right? And how
19.
many in the 41A?
We have 4.
4 of you.
4. And again, I'd like to see us get a 5th, but that's...
No, you're right. The planets must be aligned.
Yes,
for that one.
yes. But it's doable. It's doable, and honestly, I'd like to try to get that accomplished before the end of my tenure.
What is the jurisdiction of the district court? What do you handle on a day-to-day basis, Judge?
We handle, as you know, but I'll explain it to your constituents. We handle landlord-tenant, small claims, litigation, any civil litigation under $25,000, traffic, and then criminal, starting with misdemeanors, but also starting with felonies. We handle the arraignment and then the preliminary exam, and so we handle all criminal, but we also, of course, bind over any felonies that we see that meet the burden to our brethren in circuit court.
Absolutely. And obviously the district court is the people's court. It handles all of those day-to-day issues that face our community, which is why I usually come see you on behalf of my clients. So if we may parse them out, I wanted to ask you some questions about the general civil docket. What do you do how often do you handle those cases? What do you do for them usually?
We handle Judge Lepore and I will share the civil docket, and we typically take 2 days each just to handle the civil docket. And typically we will, of course, once they file their case and we get a response, we'll set it for a pretrial. And the pretrial, of course, we get the parties together to hopefully start the resolution process. And so at the pretrial, we get the parties to agree on discovery, and I know you know what that means, but the discovery period, whether or not we're going to do a bench or a jury trial or mediation. Are we going to order mediation? And then last but not least, the different time frames for motions and depositions. Again, I know we're getting a little
Absolutely. Not at all.
legalese here, but I apologize. And but more importantly, after discovery, we'll set it for trial if they have not resolved it. And I've handled, God, I don't know how many bench trials.
I can imagine.
Yeah, and handled several jury trials as well, and in 24 years. Yeah.
And on the criminal aspect of the jurisdiction of the court, as you indicated earlier, you handled both all the misdemeanors that are before the court as well as the felonies from the onset up through the exam. Could you explain us that process? What do you do?
Certainly. For misdemeanors, we start with an arraignment. Everyone gets arraigned. Any type of criminal offense, you'll get an arraignment. And at the arraignment, we set bond and we determine whether or not, well, most of the time, and I know this is relatively new for us, is the MIDC and and I'm, you know, I have to admit, I was a little suspect or a little leery, but boy, it's I think turned into a wonderful process, because now we, as you well know, we have an attorney present at all arraignments.
Yes.
And that in its unto itself has led to a lot more expeditious process, in my opinion. And I've been impressed, because I didn't know how that flow would be affected.
No,
So
I agree. I think I was equally prejudicial when it comes to the viewing of how that may play out. I always thought, as part of the process, if we as a society were going to sink our hard-earned tax-paying dollars in any part of the legal process, that wouldn't be at the arraignment. But I think you're right. They proved us wrong. It does work.
yeah, no, I was a little concerned, but we've been now, has it been a year or 2 years now with the MIDC, and I've been impressed.
Yeah.
It definitely helps the flow. So for misdemeanors, you know, get them arraigned, get them an attorney, and then we set it for a pretrial. If they can't resolve the matter, we set it for a bench trial / jury trial, or we, again, via any motions that should come up, we determine all that. And then at the end of the day, for misdemeanors, typically they get resolved, as you well know. I mean, I want to say at least 90%, I'm being conservative. But all the others, we, you know, resolve either via bench trial or jury trial, and we complete the process there. With felonies, a little difference. We have to set for PCC now, probable cause conference, and then soon thereafter a preliminary exam. So we'll arraign the defendant, and again, I know you know the difference, but a felony is anything punishable beyond a year in the county jail. So anything punishable beyond that amount, we charge them with a felony, or the felony status is invoked. So PCC, preliminary exam, and then once we get to the exam stage, as a judge, I determine if there's probable cause to bind the matter over to circuit court. And again, getting into some legalese, but it's not a tremendous burden, but it's up to the prosecutor to prove to me that they had probable cause to charge the offense as well as the defendant. And I don't know, I've lost count how many preliminary exams I've held.
I believe you. Between those and trials, you probably have lost count.
A couple. But,
Judge, what kind of cases do you see on the criminal realm?
Unfortunately, with COVID, I hate to admit, but the domestic cases domestic violence have been on the rise. And, I shouldn't act too surprised, in the sense that we're all under the same stress and the same pressure that this pandemic has rot. And unfortunately, people, you know, have a difficult time handling the stress. But I understand that, and more importantly, I try to incorporate that, you know, with any of my rulings or decisions.
Certainly.
You know, that these folks, and the good news is most of them, you know, are first-time offenders. They're, you know, they're there. The stress has gotten to them, or whatever the case may be. They make a bad choice.
Absolutely.
So, and we work with them, and more importantly, try to repair what was damaged.
Absolutely. What other kind of cases does the district court see?
We definitely see our fair share of drinking and driving.
Absolutely.
I would say that was, and then before it was legalized, we definitely had a fair share of possession of marijuanas. But again, I'll be quite honest with you. I did not vote for the legalization, just because as a former drug prosecutor, you know, it's still a drug, but after, God, how many years it's been now? 5 now?
Yeah,
I think
so.
close to 5 years since legalization. I guess even though I'm old school, I'm somewhat impressed with how the new law has been incorporated, and more importantly, how it has affected society, you know, as a whole. So I believe it was a bit of a Pandora's box, where careful what you wish for.
Sure.
You open this box. But I have to admit that I think people have a better time, I hate to admit this, have a better time controlling that habit than any other drinking or drug addiction. I mean, marijuana is not as addictive, but it can be. It can be. And marijuana seems to, definitely on the medical side, there's definitely some true, I guess, effects that help people out.
Absolutely. And perhaps our worst fears were not materialized.
Exactly. Yeah. And
that's excellent. Judge, over the course of your day, over the course of your week, how is your day structured?
Typically, we have dockets morning, afternoon, and in district court, we're handling per day probably around 50 cases a day, and so it's busy.
Absolutely.
And I guess the good news, if any, is that we handle cases that aren't critical to, let's say, our societal makeup. You know, we're talking traffic.
Absolutely.
And then traffic misdemeanors. But there are, of course, certain crimes that we definitely deal with on a very serious level.
Absolutely.
But the volume is such where it's manageable. But it's a busy day.
Absolutely.
It's a busy day.
What does your staffing look like at the courthouse and in your media chambers?
Within every court's a little different, but our court, we have approximately, close to 30 support personnel, either via probation or our clerks, who do an awesome job. Those as former military, so they're on the front line. Because I had a note passed to me today from a clerk and saying this gentleman was rude, and then I just take note. He as you well know, in court they're a little calmer.
Absolutely.
And as you should be. Don't.
That's right.
But so he came in and we talked about the issue at hand, and he actually impressed me with the level of education and his intelligence. And I go, very sharp individual, but next time, do yourself a favor. When you come to court, you get more bees with honey.
Yes.
So just be a little kinder. these folks are doing a job out there. You know, don't take it out on them. And that's and that's one aspect of the job that you gotta I guess embrace is that people don't want to be in court.
No.
I mean, it's like a dentist.
They're having a bad day.
Yeah. If they're in court, they're not there because they want to be, and so they're stressed, and unfortunately our clerks they'll definitely bear the brunt, but they come into court and you try to calm them down, and they usually do, and we get hopefully a resolution that not only is best for them, but best for society. Absolutely. And that's the, I guess my primary job. Absolutely. Is within my decision-making process, what is best for all. And as you well know, that's not simple.
No.
I wish it was, but that's one aspect of the job, I'll be quite honest with you, that I did not, I guess, anticipate. Because there's certain days, I mean, I'll get off that bench, I'm emotionally drained. I mean, literally, I will go home and just, you know. I believe you. Yeah, because emotionally, because as a judge, we got to remain impartial. Mm-hmm. So we can't show much emotion, and we can't, you know, and we shouldn't. Absolutely. That's part of our job. But we're human too.
Absolutely.
So we see some travesties or hear testimony from witnesses that are heartbreaking. And again, you maintain your professionalism, but it takes its toll too. It takes its toll.
An attorney that you and I both know by the name of Clem Waldman, who's been around for a long time, as you know, about to turn 90. His statement to me when I first came out in practice, having clerk in the same courthouse where he was magistrate, was my hardest job, the hardest job I do as a magistrate and that anybody as a judge does, is to try and attempt to be fair. Fairness is the hardest thing to achieve. And his statement to me at the time, and it remains true today, is if you want to see fairness, you got to cross the Quinder and go into Sterling Heights. So I think that's a testament to you and your colleagues.
Clem just wanted more strokes on the golf
course. I don't know, perhaps.
Dear friend.
Yes.
And I totally agree. What a class act and gentleman Magistrate Waldman is.
Absolutely. But I think it's true, though. As you know, I practice all throughout our district courts and circuit courts around both Oakland and Macomb. And I get to, and I've worked in both, and I get to see the difference between the courts. And one of the things that I see day in and day out is that application of fairness all along. One of the things that I told you beforehand, before starting today, which remains true as we do this interview, is I've been in front of you for so many years, and yet I knew so little about you as a person, and I'm finding I'm all out today. And the reason is because you're so condensed and appropriate, and without anything over the top or unnecessary over the course of your day as a judge on the bench, that I never knew all the things that I actually know of all the other judges. So I would have appreciated it knowing the fact that you were, for example, a pilot, and that would be great. My father was a pilot. He flew the MiG.
He was in my crosshairs.
Yes, exactly. You're fighting the Cold War against him.
No, that's very kind. But along the same line, that's part of the job that's a little difficult. Is as a judge, we are. And we're supposed to be somewhat isolated.
Absolutely.
And honestly, that's part of the job, again, that you don't get prep for, because there is no prep. But as a judge, we must, maintain certain distances or boundaries.
Decorum for both sides. Yeah.
For both sides. And that also, includes, after hours or,
Absolutely.
So at times it can be very isolating.
Absolutely.
And that compliment was very kind.
No, thank you. No, it's not a compliment. It's a simple truth.
Well, your next motion will be granted. That's not true. That's not true. I've denied it a million more.
I think most, if not all.
No.
Judge, what part of the reason that I think our district court, the 41A district court, is successful is obviously your staff, as we talked about. There's the staff that you have as part of your upfront clerks, administrative clerks, and probation officers, which are obviously between the first floor and the basement, but you also have administrative staff that assists you over the course of your day in your courtroom. What is that comprised?
Oh, we have a court administrator and court clerk who definitely, they do the true work of the court. They manage not only the clerks and the docket and the paperwork. Oh my God, the paperwork is immense. And they're the ones that without them, I don't know where I would be or any judge, because and then we have Stacy Radio, who's amazing, and Miss Smith, Cherie Smith. They're doing a fantastic job for us. And again, I'll be the first to admit that between the clerks and the administrators and all the other staff, that they are the ones, and I mean this, they're the ones who make our court look so good.
Absolutely.
And I mean that. I mean that.
And you also have, Judge, a court officer within your courthouse, is that correct?
Correct.
And what's his role?
His role is quite simple. It's court security. But beyond that, he's also there to make sure that, you know, the files and the people check in, the right courts, and you know the flow. But he's there to hopefully keep the docket moving.
Judge, obviously, we all of us went through a couple of years that were very unusual.
Oh, and I'm sorry to interrupt.
Not at all.
But I got to pay a huge, huge compliment to my court reporter, who is Albanian.
Yes.
Lisa, and Arapovic.
That's right.
She honestly, I was chief judge, and I will be chief judge again soon, but as chief judge, I hired her, and this goes back close to 18 years. Anyway, when my initial court reporter retired, I hired Lisa as my new court reporter, and she has been amazing.
Hands down, the best court reporter that we have in Macomb County and Oakland County combined.
Well,
and it's not because she's one of our fellow Albanians that we compliment her, but because she is truly the ultimate professional.
And she is. And so I want to give her a shout out and her family.
Absolutely.
Because I know her family well, just good people, great people.
Absolutely.
But,
now, she always has been. She's a staple in our courthouse. She does amazing work, and, you know, without hesitation, without ever the need of anything being uttered, ever.
Exactly. She's amazing in that regard. And she never says no.
Absolutely.
You know, if there's a question that she can help out or an issue she can help out with.
Simple truth.
She is there. So
absolutely.
I
thank you for doing that.
Yeah, no. How do you say thank you?
Faleminderit.
Faleminderit?
That's right.
All right. Because she's amazing.
Well earned. As I was saying earlier, we went through a couple of years that obviously were difficult for all of us, but particularly for the courthouse. And I know that it coincided with additional issues with the building in the courthouse. Could you tell us what occurred, and then, you know, are we back fully?
Yep. We had to shut down the courthouse. We had some issues there that need to be rectified, and the timing was kind of good in the sense that we, you know, with the pandemic, court cases didn't subside so much, but we only could handle so many. So we temporarily went up to Shelby and relocated there, and about a year later, I want to say, we were back in our old courthouse. But yes, we had to address some issues concerning the age, basically.
Yeah, the age of the building.
The age of the building. It's been, over at least 30 years, if not longer.
It's the only thing old enough to be able to rival your age.
I'll take that as a compliment.
Yes. With it comes wisdom, I presume.
Oh, yeah. And gray hair.
Yes.
But no, so the timing on it did work out. And it was a bit of an inconvenience for us all,
Absolutely.
as well as the attorneys for Shelby, but we got through it. And now we're back in the building, and it came out nicely, very nicely.
Absolutely. And Judge, I know that for a moment of time there was a lot of Zoom. Are you back in person for everybody and everything? How is that working right now?
The Supreme Court has come out with a new court rule that allows us to incorporate Zoom, and not only incorporate it, they encourage it.
Excellent.
So my court personally, I have no qualms with Zoom, but certain hearings just need to be held in person. And I know you understand that.
Absolutely.
So I don't want to put a percentage on it, but I'm always open to the Zoom.
Absolutely.
You know, I know what a convenience, I don't want to say convenience, but how helpful it can be
Yes.
for a practicing attorney. And I don't discount that, nor will I ever, because you are on the front line as well. And that is no easy task. I know that. So if Zoom helps out, or can be incorporated to streamline certain procedures, why not?
Absolutely.
I know I'm an old dog, but new tricks can still be had. And that's part of as you well know in the legal world, how important it is to keep that open mind, because the law forever changes.
Absolutely.
Forever.
Now, Judge, you have, this is obviously election season. We've got an election coming up a couple of weeks, and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're on the ballot this time around as well.
I am, and fortunately, I am unopposed, but would appreciate any support.
Absolutely.
I've appreciated the Albanian support for many years. I've been blessed with many Albanian friends, and I don't know much, but I want to say Prizmir.
Thank you.
I know that's not a thank you, but I know it's to your health.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's
so,
right.
But
And Judge, I know that you're obviously deeply involved in the community. You've been around here. You live nearby.
Yes.
Okay. And you've lived here, basically all your adult life.
Pretty close.
So this is your community, and the work that you do is not just obviously just a job to you. It's more than that.
It is, and as a district court judge, that's honestly one of the simple reasons why I stayed there, is that the district court is the people's court. More importantly, I think as a judge, you can make the most difference in your community, because most people who come to us come through the district court, first time, second time offenders, if that, and some are at crossroads. And if you can get that person to go to the right direction, the sooner the better. And more importantly, they won't come back.
I think that is absolutely correct. A simple, true statement, and I think I find it actually encouraging, because it is a statement that independently all our district court judges will tell you sua sponte, on their own, at any given time, and it's an innately held belief. And I think it is because of the simple truism of it all.
No, it's not easy in practice.
No.
But it's so neat. I keep on my desk this little white box that was filled with chocolates. I say it was. The chocolates didn't last long. But I keep this white box on my desk as a simple reminder. I was there, I was going through the docket, get through it, and I look out, and there's a young lady out in the courtroom still, and I look at her, I go, I'm sorry. I'm going, why are you here? Because I thought I was done. She goes, Judge, I just wanted to say thank you. And I look at her, I go, and I as you well know, our volume is such that you may not remember everyone. And I look at her, I go, I apologize. Well, why are you thanking me? She goes, oh, you made a difference. You made a big difference in my life, and I have for you this gift. And it was that small box of chocolates. But beyond the chocolates, just the gesture.
Absolutely.
I'll never forget. And more importantly, it's another part of the job that's difficult. We'll send people down the road that we hope changes their life. changes society.
Sure.
But unfortunately, we only see the people who don't
Absolutely.
succeed.
Correct.
And you understand that then they're back for their probation violation, and they're back for this, back for that. But the success stories, we don't get to see per se, in the sense that, yeah, we don't see their file, so we're hoping that all went well. But the feedback, unfortunately, is not always positive, and that's just the nature of the job.
No.
But I'll never forget, and that's why I keep that little white box on my
That's a beautiful
desk.
memento.
Yeah, just remember that, hey, you're there for a reason, and very lucky to be there.
Absolutely. But I think, though, I think your point is well taken. At the end of the day, the amount of positive outcomes emerging out of a district court, especially out of a district court such as yours, with the talent that we have here, is infinitely outweighs the few examples of, as they're represented by probation violations.
Correct.
So I think obviously this district court is a testament to you and your colleagues. It does exceptionally well, exceedingly well for our community.
Well, I've been blessed with some great colleagues, and not only here, but as you well know, throughout our county.
Absolutely.
Through Macomb County. We have, I think, a tremendous bench bar constituents, but not only that, but relationship. I think our bench bar relationship is one of the most unique, but more importantly, one of the most, I guess, productive or successful.
Absolutely.
We're blessed in that regard, I think.
I'm sure the statistics bear it out, but most importantly, the attorneys on an individual basis will all agree to a man or woman. I think that's a simple, true statement.
Yeah. Now, and again, I mentioned a story to you. I still owe that person a dozen roses for directing me to Macomb County.
Yes, you do. That and more, I think.
Yeah, that and more. Actually,
you may be indebted more than that.
At least 2 dozen.
Well, you could have said go to Monroe County. Nothing wrong with
Yeah,
Monroe.
no, I love Monroe.
But Macomb is a great county in that regard. And I think as we see, all our district court and the circuit court bench, and the kind of rapport that exists between all sides of this, of the practice of law, between judges, prosecuting attorneys, defense attorneys, and practitioners of civil law, I think it's such a congenial bar as a result. I had an office in Warren. My first office, as you know, with my partner Eric Getz, was in Warren. And we left that after about a year. We've been in Oakland ever since. We still practice day in and day out in Macomb. We still feel like we're a part of this community for all the right reasons.
You are. And as you well know, once you become a part of it, you never leave.
You never leave. And it's hard to.
Yeah.
We prefer these, all the Christmas parties in Macomb to the ones in Oakland, I must say.
But no, again, very unique bench bar, but more importantly, I think one of the best.
Absolutely.
And obviously we're a little biased, but what I've seen in my, oh my God, almost 30 plus years now here within the legal community here in Macomb, I from day one, it has been amazing.
Absolutely.
It truly has. And so.
Absolutely. And now you continue that great tradition. I know your son is out there and he's following your footsteps, and it's wonderful to see.
It's so reassuring in this regard that as a father.
Absolutely.
And you want to raise your kids as best as possible, but that young man, and then people, it's funny, they at first when he started practicing in the county, they'd see the last name and his biggest complaint was this. They would see my name and go, "Oh, are you Judge SIERAWSKI's brother?"
Well, those dashing good looks in that picture, that's what it is.
And he'd tell me the story, and I'd look at him, I go, "You don't get it, do you?" What do you mean? I go, they're not complimenting you. They're complimenting
That's right.
me. You're important, but no, I'm joking.
You're just the drive-through messenger.
And he looked at, no.
That's
so no, he God bless him. He's really enjoying his stint in the Macomb County
Absolutely.
Prosecutor's Office. And I gotta throw out some more kudos. And if I didn't, I'd be in big trouble. To my wife.
Absolutely.
And I think you're aware, she is actually the mayor pro tem
That's right.
of Sterling Heights. So, and God bless her, because I think council meetings.
They are not for the faint of heart.
No, they're not.
They're not for the faint of heart.
And she's been on council now, 7 years? But oh my goodness, the way she's handled it,
Yes.
just fantastic. And I have no qualms in saying that she may now be the most popular SIERAWSKI in Sterling Heights.
I'm inclined to agree.
Hey!
I am.
So much for that motion.
I know, right? I know I'd pull it out of you anyway. I'm inclined to agree. And it isn't for the faint of heart, as you know. And those are difficult positions with, rightly so. They deal with the problems of our community, much like you deal with the problems of our community on the other end. The front line, bread and butter issues, limited means, huge needs, and to be able to allocate them properly, do the job with dignity the way she does, it is
well,
a sight to behold.
and I, as you well know, you're part of the public service system. That I always applaud anyone for their service. No matter what level or what role you may have, a public service is not simple.
Absolutely.
And it's gotten more complicated, as you well know. But God bless her. She I can say, because it's fact, that she's been the top vote getter the last 3 city elections.
That's right.
So
that's right.
So my big brag, or my big I guess statement, is that I sleep with the mayor pro tem. And people look at you, but honestly, I do.
It's interesting.
It's true. It's true. But no, she puts up with me. I don't get it.
You're tolerated in the bedroom, sir.
Right. Yeah.
That's great.
No, we've been very blessed. 35 years of marriage, and 4 kids, 4 sons, and it's neat. My twin Patrick, who's the prosecutor, it's kind of neat. You'll enjoy this as well. His twin is actually a major in the Marine Corps. So what's so interesting, one twin followed me down my legal path.
That's right. The other one
followed the military.
Service,
yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So tremendously blessed. And the other 2 sons are doing well. The one's thinking about law school. I'm trying to talk him out of it, but no, we've been very lucky. And we have a grandchild now, which is the coup de grace of life.
Yes.
The only problem is she's with our son in the military, who's stationed presently in San Diego. So we don't get to see her that much, but they're coming home for the holidays.
That's excellent.
And I think you've seen your parents
absolutely
with your children.
It's incredible.
And grandparenthood is just amazing, just amazing. And my son always gets mad when we see her. We spoil her, right? It's our granddaughter. And he goes, "Dad, you got to quit doing that." I said, "Really?" I go, "I'll do whatever I want, especially for her." And I said, "By the way, does she want 1 or 2 ponies?" Anyway, no,
that's great.
She's oh my God, she's a sweetheart, and we'll see her soon.
I'm glad to hear it, and I'm just so glad to hear all of this. And like I said, I'd never heard him before because of the ultimate professional way in which you handle yourself on the bench.
Thank you.
And I'm so grateful on behalf of my community to have you and the rest of your family be the public servants that you are.
Thank you.
So on that note, I want to thank you so much for being here today. Thank you for taking the time. I know you're a busy man.
Thank you to
all. Such a pleasure.
Thank you for allowing me to serve you. It's been a tremendous honor, Good Lord willing, I'll be around for a little longer.
We
A little
all hope
longer.
so.
No,
We all
thank
hope
you. So kind.
Thank you.
Yep.